The great ship named Ardent Grace moved slowly across the silent space above a bright blue planet. Its walls were smooth and silver, shining whenever the faraway sun touched them. Inside the ship, thousands of people worked and lived. The air smelled of metal, oil, and human hands that had built machines able to cross light years. Every voice, every sound, every heartbeat belonged to humans who had come from Earth long ago. At the center of the ship sat Queen Leora. She was not a queen with golden crowns or long dresses made of silk. She was a leader who carried papers, wore a simple black coat, and worked longer hours than most of her officers. Her face was calm, her eyes light gray like rain clouds. People said she ruled 5 worlds across the system, yet she often walked among the crew with no guard, listening to their stories, helping them with their small troubles. She believed a ruler should never forget what it means to be one of her people. Still, even with all her greatness, loneliness never left her. The title Queen followed her everywhere, written on reports, whispered by admirers, feared by rivals. But behind that title was a woman who once loved to dance, who once dreamed of being seen not as a powerful figure but simply as herself. Perhaps no one did until Captain Ethan Vale arrived on her ship. Ethan was not born to fame or fortune, came from a small town under the desert domes of Mars Colony, where life was hard and days were long. He joined the fleet at 18, earned his command through courage, and gained a reputation for saving lives during dangerous missions. He was known for being direct, sometimes even too honest. Some called him lucky, others called him reckless. But every man and woman under his command respected him. He never asked others to risk what he would not risk himself. Now he stood outside the Queen's private chamber, his uniform pressed but simple. The door opened with a soft sound, and he stepped inside. The room was large but quiet, filled with soft blue lights and maps of distant worlds shining on the walls. Leora stood by the window, staring into space. "Captain Vale," she said, her voice gentle but strong. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing a little. He did not know if she liked formal words, but respect came naturally to him. She turned to look at him. "You're wondering why I called you here?" "Yes, Your Majesty. I need an escort to the Unification Gala on Varelia Prime," she said. "All the leaders will be there. It is the first one since the war ended. I cannot refuse the invitation." He waited for more explanation, but she said nothing else. She looked at the stars, and her reflection in the glass looked tired, almost sad. "It will be an honor," he said finally. "But if I may ask why me?" Her lips curved into a small smile. "They say you do not pretend, that you speak truth even when it is not pleasant. I need someone like that beside me." Ethan nodded. I'd never thought of himself as special, but he understood what she meant. Too often people in power were surrounded by flattery and lies. Honest words were rare like water in the desert. She stepped closer to him. "Captain Vale, do you dance?" The question surprised him. "I did once," he said carefully, "at my sister's wedding." Leora laughed softly. Leora laughed softly, a real laugh that filled the quiet room. "At least you tried." He watched her in silence. That laugh seemed to lift a shadow from her face. For a brief moment, he saw not the queen of many worlds, but a woman remembering joy. She looked down, her hands folding in front of her. "People talk about the gala as if it is a celebration. But for me it feels like another meeting of masks. I am tired, Captain. Tired of being looked at but never seen." He wanted to answer but could not find the right words. So he only said, "Maybe this time will be different." "Maybe," she said, though her tone carried doubt. "Sometimes I wish someone would ask me to dance, not because I am a queen, but because I am Leora." Ethan looked at her carefully. "Maybe someone will," he said. For a long moment she met his eyes. She nodded once and turned back to the window. "We leave for Varelia Prime tomorrow." "Yes, Your Majesty," he said. He saluted and walked out, but his thoughts remained behind with her. As he walked through the long corridor of the ship, he could still hear the quiet strength in her voice. He began to wonder what it would feel like to dance against and dance, not as a soldier or as an officer, but as a man beside a woman who had forgotten how it felt to be seen. Outside, the stars moved in silence, waiting for new stories to unfold. The planet Varelia Prime looked peaceful from above. Its silver seas, and glowing towers made it seem like a jewel in the wide, dark sky. The ship Ardent Grace entered orbit, shining like a slow-moving star. Below, the great city waited for the Queen. It was the night of the Unification Gala, the night when leaders from many worlds would come together to celebrate the peace that had lasted for 100 years. Queen Leora stood by the window of her room, watching the lights on the planet below. Her dress was simple but beautiful, made of soft gray fabric that reflected tiny silver lights. She did not wear a crown. Instead, she wore a small pendant shaped like a star. Her eyes looked calm, but her hands told another story. They moved nervously, folding and unfolding as she thought about what lay ahead. Ethan Vale entered quietly, dressed in a dark uniform lined with silver along the collar. He carried himself with quiet confidence. When she turned to face him, he bowed slightly. She smiled, a small but real smile. "You look ready, Captain," she said. "I hope so, Your Majesty. My job is simple. Keep you safe, stay quiet, and try not to trip over anyone's gown." She laughed softly. "That last part may be harder than the first two." The Queen and the Captain left the ship together, stepping into a long glass walkway that led down to the city's Grand Hall. People lined the path, cheering as she passed. Some waved banners, others threw petals that drifted in the air like gentle snow. Leora smiled and raised her hand in greeting, but her smile did not fully reach her heart. She whispered so only Ethan could hear. "I never get used to this." "They love you," he said. "That is not such a bad thing. They love a symbol," she replied, "not the person." He looked at her quietly, not sure what to say. It was not his place to comfort a queen, yet he wished he could. The gala hall was vast and bright, with long white pillars, walls made of gleaming glass, and music that filled the air like the hum of soft rain. Hundreds of guests filled the floor, leaders, generals, ambassadors, all wearing fine clothes and perfect smiles. When they entered, the music faded slightly, and every head turned to watch the Queen. Leora walked with steady grace, her posture strong, her chin lifted. Ethan followed half a step behind, scanning the crowd with sharp eyes. He was trained to notice danger, not admiration, but tonight all he saw were faces full of awe. "Her Majesty honors us tonight," said the Master of Ceremony, bowing deeply. "May peace last as long as the light of our suns." The people applauded politely. Leora nodded, thanked him with a short speech, and then stood aside as the musicians began to play again. Ethan found a quiet corner near the edge of the hall. He was more comfortable there, away from the whispers and the jewels. In his place, he could see Leora speaking to governors and scientists, smiling politely. Yet every smile looked the same, practiced, distant. Her eyes drifted at times to the center of the floor, where couples began to dance in slow, graceful circles. When he saw that, Ethan remembered their short talk on the ship. He remembered her words about wishing to be asked to dance as herself. He wondered if any man in that room would dare to ask her. None did. They all bowed, flattered, and moved away. The music went on, growing brighter, turning from slow strings to warm drums. At last, Leora stepped onto the balcony that looked over the city. The cool air moved through her hair as she watched the lights below. Ethan approached quietly. He stopped beside her, not too close, not too far. "Beautiful view," he said. "Yes," she said softly. "It almost makes one forget the walls around." He looked out as well. "Walls don't hold forever," she smiled faintly. "You speak as if you know that from experience." "I do," he said. "I've seen walls built from fear. They always fall when someone decides to see what's beyond them." Her eyes stayed on the horizon. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," he said, "but worth trying." The music behind them changed to something slower, more human and warm. Voices lowered, and a new melody rose, soft and full of light. Ethan turned to her. His voice was calm. "You said on the ship that no one sees you as a princess," he said. She blinked, turning to look at him. "Yes, I did." He held out his hand. "Then maybe you should give them a reason to." For a moment she did not move. The hall behind them shimmered with candlelight. She looked at his hand, then at his face. Slowly she placed her hand in his. They stepped back into the hall together. The crowd parted with surprised murmurs as the Queen and the soldier moved to the center of the floor. The orchestra played softly. Ethan bowed slightly. Leora, feeling every eye fixed on her, hesitated only a heartbeat. Then she began to dance. Her steps were careful at first, unsure, but soon they found a rhythm together, moving like breath, simple and real. No crown, no title, no command. Only two people among many remembering what it felt like to be seen. And as they danced under the silver lights of the hall, even the whispering guests forgot their politics. For the first time in many years, the Queen of the Core Worlds was smiling, true and free. The hall filled with light as the Queen and the Captain moved across the shining floor. The music wrapped around them like wind across calm water. The slow rhythm matched the beating of their hearts, and for a short time the noise of the gathered crowd faded. The Queen's gray dress turned with each gentle step, the silver lights across its surface blending with the soft glow above. Ethan moved carefully, guiding her with steady confidence. He was not a perfect dancer, but his focus made every movement seem graceful. Those watching could hardly believe what they saw. The Queen never danced at public events. She was known for her calm speeches, her clear mind, her steady rule. But a dance was something private, something unguarded. Yet there she was, spinning quietly in the arms of a man whose rank was far below hers. A few nobles looked unhappy, whispering behind their fans. Some ambassadors leaned forward, eyes wide in disbelief, but others smiled. They saw courage in her small act, courage in choosing joy over formality. Ethan noticed none of that. He only saw the woman before him. Leora's voice, when she finally spoke, was soft and almost unsure. "It has been a long time," she said. "Since you danced?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Since I felt like myself." She looked around the hall. "Every move I make is watched, judged, recorded. Yet right now, none of that seems to matter." "That's because it doesn't," Ethan said simply. Her eyes met his for a brief moment, and for that heartbeat of time, there were no titles, no stars, no history of rule. There were only two people who dared to exist freely in a world built on order and expectation. The music changed slowly, lifting in tempo. They began to move faster, following instinct more than form. The Queen laughed again, this time louder, freer. The sound filled the hall like sunlight pouring through clouds. The musicians seemed to play brighter in reply. Near the edges of the room, the guards exchanged uncertain glances. One whispered to another, unsure if they should stop the music or let it play. But then an older general touched the guard's arm and said quietly, "Let her dance. Let them all see what she is fighting for." When the song ended, the hall fell silent for a long moment. Then came the applause, soft at first, then stronger, until the room echoed with clapping hands and smiling faces. The Queen bowed her head slightly, her cheeks warming with color. Ethan stepped back and gave her space, as duty demanded. "Thank you," she whispered so only he could hear. "It was an honor," he replied. Later, as the event continued, Leora returned to her duties. She greeted guests, accepted gifts, and gave polite replies. Yet something had changed. Her steps seemed lighter. Her voice held warmth that had been missing before. Even those who once spoke about her as if she were made of glass now saw her as something real, living. When the final meal had been served and the guests began to leave, Ethan stood again by the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons hung pale in the sky. Leora came to join him once more. "You have caused quite a storm, Captain," she said gently, standing beside him. "I have a gift for that," he said. She smiled. "They will talk about this night for years. Doubt the moment their queen danced with a soldier on the night of peace. Then they will remember that their queen is human," Ethan said, looked out over the city lights. "Do you think so?" "I know so." Silence stretched between them again, comfortable and deep. The cool wind moved through her hair, and the soft lights from the hall behind them painted gold across her face. Ethan saw that she looked less like a ruler now, and more like a woman who had found something she had forgotten. "Do you regret it?" he asked finally. She shook her head. "For once I was honest in front of them all. I did what I wanted, not what tradition demanded." He smiled at her words. "Then this night was worth it." "It was," she said, "because I remembered that power is not the same as distance. It is not the same as silence." He looked at the stars, their bright lines stretching through the black sky. "And I remembered that even leaders need someone to remind them they are alive." She nodded and turned slightly toward him. "You speak as if you have known queens before," he laughed softly. "Only one." The queen smiled then, a true smile that reached her eyes. "Then you were either brave or foolish, Captain Vale." "Perhaps both," he said. A call from the hall signaled the closing of the event. The music changed once more into a final tune. People began to leave, whispering about the night they had just witnessed. Leora sighed but did not move. Ethan gave a small bow. "Permission to escort you back to the ship." Her reply came after a moment. "Granted, Captain." They walked quietly through the glowing corridors side by side. As they neared the exit, Leora glanced at him again. "Ethan, do you realize what you have done tonight?" "I danced, Your Majesty," he said. "Nothing more?" She shook her head. "No, you reminded me that being human is still allowed." He did not answer. Some truths needed no reply. The city lights faded behind them as they boarded the ship once more. Inside, the great engines waited in the dark, ready to lift them back into the stars. And for the first time in many years, the Queen of Many Worlds smiled quietly to herself, feeling lighter than the endless galaxy beyond her window. The sun of Veralia rose clear and golden the morning after the gala. Its light reached the ship Ardent Grace, turning its silver hull into a streak of fire across the sky. Inside the ship, the crew moved quietly, still carrying the thrill of what they had seen the night before. Everyone was speaking softly about the Queen's dance. Some said it was beautiful, others said it was strange, but no one would forget it. Queen Leora sat alone in her private chamber, a cup of tea growing cold beside her. The quiet hum of the engines filled the air around her like a steady heartbeat. She looked at her reflection in the glass wall. Without her fine dress or attendants, she looked simple, almost like any other woman. For the first time in many years, that thought made her happy. There was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," she said. Captain Ethan Vale stepped in, his uniform slightly wrinkled from lack of sleep. He saluted quickly, then relaxed when she waved him to do so. "Did you rest at all, Captain?" she asked, sipping her tea. "Not much," he said honestly. "His crew has been busy debating whether last night was part of the plan or a surprise." She smiled faintly. It was not part of any plan. But sometimes the best moments are the unplanned ones. Ethan nodded. "The dance was brave. It was small," she said. "But I suppose small things can still move large hearts." He hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Some of the council members are worried, Your Majesty. They fear that your image may change, that people might think you have grown too." Ordinary Leora set down her cup and looked at him. "Do they truly believe that showing our people we are human is a weakness?" "Some do," he said. "They live by rules and ranks. They fear new things." "Then they are blind," she replied calmly. "A ruler does not lose respect by being real. She earns it." Her words carried a quiet strength that even Ethan admired. Later that day, they left orbit and began their slow travel back toward the central colonies. The ship moved silently across the stars. From his station, Ethan watched the blue planet shrink below them until it looked no bigger than a pearl in the black. The crew returned to duty, but the air on the ship felt different, lighter somehow. That evening, Leora walked through the lower decks alone. The workers, engineers, and pilots bowed with surprise when they saw her. She stopped and spoke with them one by one, asking about the machines, the long hours, the food, the laughter. They answered nervously at first, then warmly as she listened with real care. When night came, she stood at one of the wide viewports watching stars pass by in endless rhythm. Ethan joined her there quietly. "You should sleep," he said. "I cannot," she replied. "My thoughts will not rest." "Thinking about the gala and what comes after," she said. "There will be questions, criticisms, perhaps even protests. Some will say I broke tradition. Some will say I disrespected the crown." Ethan nodded. "They will talk. But in time, they will understand. You showed them something stronger than rules." She looked at him curiously. "And what is that?" "Hope," he said simply. "You showed them hope." Her eyes softened. "You speak like a poet, Captain Vale." He smiled slightly, just a soldier who has seen too many orders that forgot what they were meant to protect. Wind from the ship's circulation brushed through her hair. "You are different from most officers. You speak truth without fear." "Fear usually makes people silent," he said. "But silence never changes anything. They stood together in that quiet corridor, watching the galaxy unfold before them. For a moment, it felt as if they were the only two souls in the endless dark. Leora spoke again. When I was a girl, I believed that leading people meant being stronger than everyone else. Never crying, never hesitating, never showing doubt. But strength without heart becomes something empty. Ethan turned to her. And now I know that real strength is doing what is right, even when people do not understand. He nodded slowly. Then you are stronger than any queen they have ever known. A faint smile crossed her lips, though her eyes held deep thought. Perhaps I am just tired of the mask. Over the next few days, messages began to reach the ship reports. Opinions, discussions from various worlds. Some criticized her, others praised her. People across the colonies were talking about the queen who danced. Some said it made them proud. Others said it gave them courage. Ethan watched her read the messages. It seems you have started something, Your Majesty. She looked up from the screen, her expression calm but bright. Then perhaps it was worth doing. He gave a small nod. History will remember last night. Let them remember it as a beginning, not an ending, she said. Outside, the stars shone like quiet witnesses. The ship moved forward, carrying Queen Leora back to her duties, yet something inside both of them had changed. She no longer walked like someone carrying the weight of a throne, but like someone walking toward the future she had chosen for herself. As the lights dimmed across the ship for the night cycle, Leora looked once more at the stars and whispered, "Maybe one night I'll dance again." Ethan smiled quietly beside her. "I'll make sure there is music waiting." The ship Ardent Grace glided through the silent dark of space, heading slowly back to the central colonies. The long journey felt different now. The crew worked with quiet pride, and their faces carried a new kind of hope. They had seen something rare, something that changed the way they thought about their queen and about themselves. Queen Leora spent many hours in her study as messages from across the colonies arrived. Some were letters of support, thanking her for reminding the people that leaders could also be human. Others, however, were not kind. They came with warnings from ministers, complaints from officials, and long speeches about royal behavior. She read them all carefully, saying nothing. Ethan Vale came to see her each morning. He stood by the door, waiting for her nod before stepping forward. Each time he found her calm, though her eyes were heavy from lack of sleep. "They will not stop talking, will they?" Ethan said. "No," she answered, "but let them talk. Their voices cannot undo what has been done." He looked at her for a moment. "Do you regret any of it?" She smiled faintly. "If a dance can cause such noise, then imagine what truth might do." "I regret nothing." The ship reached the core station by sunset. Hundreds of small crafts glowed in its orbit, waiting for her arrival. The docking bay opened in a quiet wave of light as Ardent Grace came to rest. Waiting on the platform below were members of her council, journalists, and a crowd of citizens. Her guards stood ready. Ethan walked a step behind her as they made their way down to the platform. The crowd began to cheer, louder and louder, their voices filling the bay like thunder. Some people waved their hands, while others held signs with messages of hope. Many carried small cloths with the symbol of the crown dancing over the symbol of the people. For a moment, Leora stopped and looked around her. The cold metal walls of the station had never felt warm before, but now they echoed with the heartbeat of thousands. When she reached the stage set before the cameras, the council stood up. The oldest among them, Minister Callan, stepped forward with a scroll opened in his hand. His voice was calm but serious. "Your Majesty, there are questions about the message you gave at the gala," he said. "Some say you stepped beyond the limits of royal conduct. Some demand a statement to clarify your position." Leora looked at him kindly. "My position has not changed," she said softly. "I serve the people. I lead them not by height, but by heart. If last night showed them that even those in power can feel, then I have done my duty." Whispers ran through the hall. The minister looked uneasy, but he said nothing more. A journalist called out from the corner, his voice carrying across the room. "Your Majesty, did the dance mean something more?" "Was it meant as a message to the Federation?" Leora's eyes found Ethan in the crowd, and her smile grew just slightly. The dance, she said, meant only what every person should know. That peace is not built by distance, is built by trust, by courage, and yes, by simple kindness. Her words silenced the room for a moment, followed by a wave of applause. Ethan watched the light in her face, proud and quiet. For all his years of service, he had never seen such strength shown with such calm. When the meeting ended, Leora returned to the ship once more. The corridors were still, the hum of the engines soft underfoot. She walked to the viewing window at the top deck, where stars spread wide before her.
Oh.
Ethan found her there again, standing in silence. "You spoke well today," he said. "I only spoke the truth," she replied. People forget how heavy silence can become when everyone is afraid to break it. He stepped beside her. "You changed something, whether they admit it or not." She nodded slowly. "Maybe it will take time, but I see it in their faces. They are beginning to remember what it means to belong." The stars outside looked like glowing seeds scattered across endless black. The reflection of the window showed two people standing side by side, small but strong. Leora glanced at him and said quietly, "Ethan, when I look at those lights, I see how far we have come. And yet I wonder if we will ever stop searching for something more." He smiled. "Searching keeps us alive." She laughed softly. "You always find the simple truth, Captain. It is the only kind I know." They stood together a long time, saying nothing more. The sound of the distant engine seemed to blend with the rhythm of the stars. Leora felt peaceful in a way she never had before. She was not a ruler in that moment, not a symbol or command, only a person who had dared to be seen. As the ship turned toward its next journey, she finally spoke again. "Ethan, one day there will be another gala, another song, another chance. When that happens, will you remind me not to forget this feeling?" "I will, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "Promise me," she said. "I promise." Her eyes went back to the stars, calm and shining. "Then perhaps next time, I will not wait for someone to ask me to dance. I will ask first." He smiled at her words, and for a moment the whole universe felt smaller, warmer, alive. Outside, the lights of space stretched far beyond sight, but inside, the ardent grace, the heart of humanity beat with new life, with hope. And with the quiet memory of a dance that had changed everything,